Oh my God.
We were so depressed by our tool collection and storage.
See if it closes.
His hand's shaking because he's always nervous.
I want to put in a handbrake. That means a lot. This handbrake was in Hoonicorn V 0.5. Welcome back to the Hoonigan Project Garage channel. Today I am working on the Evo, still waiting on transmission parts. That's really the only thing I need to make the car run. That being said, there are a couple things that I wanted to sort on the car after the dyno, but since I got some time now, I might as well get those things done. The main thing is the braking system. I have to go from a cross circuit to a front to rear, figure out how to plumb a hydraulic handbrake in because, hey, what's up, sweatpants?
What are you getting done today?
The whole braking system, booster delete, because I got a better proportion.
My OCD can't handle your build because you're doing all this stuff but like don't have a transmission in the car. Like,
I'm doing this stuff.
I know, you're working around it. I would just not do it.
No, you would just get a new car.
This moment right now, and when you're sitting here going, just buy another car.
Yo, real quick. We got a new addition in here.
I know.
This is crazy. So Boxo came in, tool partner for the year. Dude, this is crazy. Oh,
well, they actually came just to visit, and they were so depressed by our tool collection and storage.
By our just mishmash of tools. So we got all new Boxo everything. Oh my God. I cannot wait to lose all of these. It's gonna be sick.
It's a 10 millimeter. Yeah, just throw that out.
Okay, just
get rid of that now.
And this is just the box for this area, which has power on the outside, USBs, power inside, USBs, and then look at this whole section. We got the cabinet on the end. We got stock everywhere. Big shout out to Boxo. This is such a level up.
It's almost too nice for us. If I'm being honest, like I came in last night, I was here for the first time, I was like, I don't even know how to operate in like a shop that I can, like, you know how many more cars would get finished? Now, this is what people who watch this show don't realize. Every time you're working on something here, you spend 3 hours looking for any tool.
You need to get your shit together.
This is like my favorite feature. This goes in here, but you can also just take it to work next to you. And obviously we have all the sockets set up for this.
Nice too.
Yeah.
Wait, are these color coded?
Oh yeah, we color coded them all so that way when someone steals a tool from one tool section, we know that it doesn't belong there.
This is what happens when you work with animals. Anyway, one of the biggest things that I want to get onto this car is a part that's very special to me. Later, Brian. The whole reason I'm redoing the whole braking system is I want to put in a handbrake that means a lot. This handbrake was in Hoonicorn V 0.5. We did a test when the Hoonicorn was first built in 2014. There was no body panels on it. There was no finished anything. It was just the mechanicals. And there was a handbrake on there. There was just a simple tube style handbrake. And I actually got that thing when I was working with Ken at HRD. And here it is. Really stoked to be able to get that in here. Just have a piece of Gymkhana history in this car that's going to compete in Gymkhana GRiD. So the biggest goal is to redo that whole braking system, make the handbrake work so that when the transmission does get in here and it does get dynoed, I can get straight into GRiD testing. But before we get into that, I do have a couple little things here and there to do, namely, so while I'm waiting for the transmission, I'm gonna relocate a couple things. With the manifold that I'm running right now, I have two wastegate dump tubes. Kind of hard to see. Are dumping essentially right onto the intercooler pipe right here, which I'm really not trying to heat up my charge. We're gonna flip these up and we're gonna see if we need to add any more tubing. I'm gonna bring the hood back over, mock up what that looks like, and then we either just cut or we cut and add. We'll have to take a look.
Yeah.
So we're gonna mock that up now. All right, so I think we have a plan. Took a little bit of changing, but we're gonna do one of the gates straight out of there. The other one, instead of coming straight up through this side, being super close to the head and this sensor, we're gonna keep them exiting together. But the problem is Jameson's gonna have to figure out like how we get a bend to go from this exit underneath, hug the manifold, and come out through there. But I wanna keep the heat source generally here, as far away from the rad as possible. So try and pie cut it, figure out some bends.
A little math involved.
A little bit of math. I got faith. Jameson's got it.
Failed math.
Perfect. Yeah, I did too. That's why I work here. We're gonna just start cutting.
We got our eyeball alignment.
Okay.
Gonna chop this and then mock it up in the car and then determine what angles.
Oh, what kind of bend we need. The good thing is, this pre-made one, we just clocked the wastegate and changed the angle of this. I think this is good. We might just have to weld a little extension on it to get out the hood. But other than that, that one's good. This one, we gotta go underneath these two runners and then up through here. So that's the bend we gotta make now.
Yeah, we're aiming it this way, away from the driver's view, because it's probably gonna shoot flames.
Oh, sick.
And we don't want to obstruct your vision.
Wait, what is this scenario right here? Dude, that's sick. That's MacGyver as fuck. It's looking good.
Well, I cut what we originally had. I don't really like that bend. It makes a high point here.
Got it.
So I'm thinking about cutting it again.
And you're not actually bending the tube, you're doing pie cuts, right?
Yeah, like, it's because we're poor.
Oh, because we don't have a mandrel bender?
Yeah.
No, Jameson, we're resourceful.
We're resourceful.
It's lazy. Nah, bro. Practical.
So I'm just using pie cuts and we're trimming what was originally here. And we're just gonna get rid of this weird high point here. So I'm probably gonna do a cut in here.
Okay.
Just add a bend and we'll just do a gradual sweep.
Nice. So we popped the hood on because Jameson and I had this moment of, well, we don't know exactly where this is gonna fall in the hood scoop. And it turns out it's actually perfect.
I think we're gonna use this length too.
Yeah, I think that length is actually perfect.
So now we can just do 2 equal length tubes.
Little double barrel action. Dude, that works out perfect. See, sometimes guessing, it works out.
The trick is you just gotta pretend you know what you're doing. And then it just works out.
Then it just works out in the end. All right, double barrel wastegate. Finished all the welds. Looks really good. Nice tight clearance between the two. See if it closes. Dude, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm also gonna remind them that we had to jack up the motor.
Yeah, shout out to Vin. He brought up a really good point. Without the trends here, you don't have anything holding up the motor, so like hanging down low here. So we put the jack in, got the motor pretty much where it's gonna be sitting, just to make sure that it clears the hood. And that clearance right there is nice. That is sick.
Yeah, so now we have placement. If we wanted to later, we could scallop these to whatever shape. But
Oddly like the double barrel right now.
Yeah.
They just like clean.
get a shot from like this right here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's so Rice. In a perfect world, those will be going back into my downpipe. But it's the internet. You kind of need fire going out the hood. Yeah. I think that'll do for now. I'm pretty stoked on that, to be honest. So this handbrake handle lived in the Hoonicorn the first time it ever ran, the first test we ever did. Originally, this ran with a dual cylinder setup. So the handle itself was a reservoir. It has an output right here and a cap on top. This would go into the center diff, middle of the car. Then the bottom cylinder would lock the rear wheels. I'm lucky enough that I get to run an active center diff. So mine just opens up off of this switch. This ran off of the stock handbrake. So when you had the handbrake down, which tells the center diff to stay closed, lift the handbrake, that pops out, and that tells the center diff to open up so that when you lock the rear wheels, it doesn't lock all four at once. I gotta build a bracket for it, which sounds easy, but it's kind of not, because I mean, these are all bespoke parts. Figure out how to make that into a single pivot to make its own bracket that it can live in. After I get all that figured out, where it goes in the car, how it pulls, everything, then I gotta figure out how to make all of the brakes work within that, because the way that the brakes work in this thing, I have to rework all the lines and run an inline braking system. Would it be easier to just run an extra bracket on the back, an extra caliper, and call it a day? Sure, but I'm gonna overcomplicate this shit by a lot. So I'm actually gonna show you on a whiteboard the problems I'm facing with the current braking setup, what I'm gonna change it to, and how this handbrake is gonna work in the middle of all my whole reworked braking system. All right. Evo brakes. So here's the strategy I'm going with. Please bear with my horribly drawn representation of a car, but here's what we got going on. All right, so here we got the car setup, looking at it from the top down. Here up front, this is where we just put in our master cylinder with the booster delete. That is where our circuits come from for this whole system. Coming off the sides of that thing are the front circuit and goes around the firewall and to the front wheel there. So the rest of the setup, we have 2 lines going off the bottom that are going to the back wheels like this. They go underneath the car, out through the wheel well, into the back. So now that I'm introducing a handbrake, and I don't want to run a dual caliper, so I'm going to run this inline. All I really need to worry about is my strategy of how I'm going to break these lines here and get into the masters. We need to find the spot underneath the car and get that thing working. I'm going to cut the lines, join these into one and tee that, join these into one and tee that. Those 2 T's are going to face inwards. I'm going to cut a hole into the bottom of the car, and then off of the T's, I'm gonna get 2 soft lines that come inside the car that go into here and into here. So all that means is that my braking system is all one giant circuit now, instead of just having a reservoir on here and acting on its own. The rear brakes operate normally as rear brakes. When you push the pedal, that cylinder forces fluid through here, it goes in through the cylinder, back out into the rears, and it works like that. But when you pull the handbrake, it actually isolates one of these, and then that sends fluid to the back and just locks the rear wheels. I also have a drive line going on in here, so I have an axle, diff. The center diff is actually in here, but for illustrative purposes, I will draw a center diff there. In an all-wheel drive car, when you pull the handbrake, you have to open up the center diff enough to just be able to lock the rears. Otherwise, when you pull the handbrake, it'll lock all 4 or burn out your center diff. So that's essentially going to be a signal that comes from inside here, feeds to the center diff. When you pull the handbrake and that ground disconnects, that tells the center diff to open up. That allows the rear wheels to lock, get your slide done, whatever, and then you're good to go. And then when you release the handbrake back, senses the ground, opens that circuit back up, and you're all-wheel drive again. So that is my complicated looking, but actually pretty simple to do strategy on this car. What I need to do is take off the booster, put the new master cylinder in, tee these guys off, and then figure out where through the floor these lines are gonna come. And of course, get my handbrake bracket made. All right, before I get started on all that though, I do want to bring up one really exciting thing, / pain in the ass. This is what happens when you deal with really low production cars. When you're trying to do an Evo IX front bumper, yeah, you get the bumper cover, there's somebody that makes those. Yeah, you can find the grill, they still make that. But there's some random stamped metal piece that goes in the middle of all this that the front grill holds onto that Mitsubishi just decided not to make anymore, and it's really hard to find. And when you convert to an Evo IX bumper, or you're trying to rebuild one like myself, you just can't find them. So I just went to eBay Motors and actually found one. It was the last one available. But the good thing is I don't need to worry about that. With eBay's guaranteed fit, it should bolt in just fine. In Dubai, they had, bang, this right here. Just bolt that up right there. Without that, I don't know, it'd be some super janky like mesh job right here. And I want this thing to look as OEM as possible. I was really, really, really happy to find this. And yeah, for anybody that's trying to rebuild your Evo front bumper, this is your part number right here. Gives the grill a nice place to rest, and that just keeps everything nice and structured. Before we get into that, I do have a couple little things here and there to do, namely this. I got my valve cover back from paint, but this thing needs a bit of work still because, as you could tell, it's like a flaky metallic paint. There's a lot of different metal shavings and stuff like that. I have to get some special oil baffles that we have to keep the oil on the cams. So I'm gonna clean that up, get it on here real quick because this saran wrap is just giving me serious anxiety. All right, valve cover has been cleaned, degreased, de-soaped, everything. At least as well as I could do it. These are the baffles that I gotta be running. They drop in just like that. It vibrates a lot, it's a lot of heat. So I'm not just gonna bolt those in. Don't need any loose shit up in that. So I'm gonna use some Permatex red thread locker, heat, vibration, all the things. Just gonna get a little dab of that, make sure we're good on our valve cover baffles.
You got too excited, Ron.
I got too excited and I didn't film the actual thing going on, but you know what? It's okay. It's actually not, but it's okay. Jolly got it on cell phone, so if you want to see it vertical, watch it here.
Show me. Ron did this. He put on the gasket. He like put it on the head. His hand's shaking because he's always nervous. He put Mobile One. Shout out Mobile One. He like bolted it down a little bit. Still shaking because he's always nervous. And that's it. Roncar! Man, your setup bugs me. Why is the Haltech upside down, dude?
I don't know. Yeah, there are 35 coils. Where'd it go?
Oh, this?
There it goes. And because, you know, hot side and stuff here, reflect some of that heat back. Also, just, you know, look a little race car. Look a little race car. Let's film me! All right, another day, couple parts runs later. Got my Willwood master cylinder, sized 0.625. From what I've researched is kind of that sweet spot for the amount of pull that you get on the handbrake and the amount of force that you get on the rear cylinders in the brake. But the problem is, because of the way I want to route this handbrake, that pivot point is pretty far off from where this one is. So relative to the shifter, that's pretty much where I want the handbrake to be. I'll mount that base plate there, and really we just need to add one pivot point to here, and in theory that should be enough. We have a little special guest back here. What up, dude? Hey, welcome back. Good to see you again.
What up? Good to see you guys.
I need this. We need to make it do the thing.
So basically, I'll just add on right here, and then we know it's going to be like 2 3/16 about to get the angle, and I'll just kind of box it out and give it some structure.
Nice.
And then it'll just through bolt again.
I think we should make a base plate too.
Yeah, it'll kind of like go out more, and then you'll have another hole to bolt it down here. So you could just get in here with a wrench, and you won't have to screw with any of this to pull it off.
Perfect.
And then under the car, we'll do like a sandwich plate, kind of like a roll cage, so it doesn't just rip out.
This is called Bolt-On Boy adapting. He fabricates to turn it into a bolt-on mod, so that way I could do what I do best. That's just bolting things together, because I'm not good at any of this other shit.
Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. All right, so in the meantime, while that bracket's being made, I'm gonna get the wheels off, drain all the fluid, and get started on deleting this booster and getting that new master on right there. So get a little prep time, and then after that, we can run our lines, see what kind of routing we need. So the booster is out. And as you can see, this firewall isn't super thick here. There's actually gonna be a lot more pressure coming from the pedal because I essentially have manual brakes now. So part of this kit from Busher, if I can find the damn thing, part of the kit comes with this firewall reinforcement plate. That goes here, and the new master bolts to that, goes through the firewall. Without a booster, now my brake pedal is linear, no matter what. If I have vacuum, if I don't have vacuum, boost, off boost, the brake pedal is gonna feel the exact same. This thing, actually kind of heavy. That's around 10 pounds, and it's 10 pounds from the front. This isn't a very balanced car, so any weight I can get off the front is a really good thing. This master cylinder right here is engineered to work with that booster. We gotta size down the master cylinder. This new one is a 7/8. Smaller cylinder means it does more with less foot effort. I'm gonna put this thing back on the firewall, get that cleaned up, get the firewall kit in, and then we get to start measuring our lines. All right, we're gonna go underneath and show you. These are the brake lines coming from the front. Here's our T. So in my drawing, I kind of had the T like this. Routing wise, that doesn't make sense. So we're gonna loop one of these into the side and just do a little 180 loop on the other one. So that way the AN faces this way towards the chassis, the underside of that trans tunnel slash where the shifter is. So that way we can loop the AN lines up here along the chassis, bolt those in, get those set, and then come up in through here and just have the two soft lines coming from here. So that's the shortest possible routing of soft line that we're gonna have. And then we'll just make the cuts, let it leak out a bit, and get these guys in. All right, update. There's Nala. So we got our first tee in. So we got the 2 lines coming from the front, 1 line straight into the side. The other one, we had to do a little 180 loop, but that allows us to keep the stock line. This AN points straight towards where it's gonna enter the chassis, which is important to have as short of a soft line routing as you can. A little bit weird getting a little frisky with this device under here. It works pretty good. So now for tee number 2.
We got these pieces in. Don't worry about that hole. We're gonna fill it in with like a second pass. We got these little gusset pieces in. So
like a little reinforcement for.
Yeah. So when you go and yank.
It'll be bolted in.
Yeah, when he rips on it, it'll keep it from wanting to rip out a little bit.
Got it.
Just basically add a little strength to the part, and gonna weld it out and then blend it all out, make it look all nice. Sick. One piece.
Appreciate you.
We're getting there.
But Angelo came through. Look at that. So we took a standard Willwood bracket just so that we have the mounts on the back here. Made this extra little Johnny. That SATF mount that we have is a good bit wider, and we needed it further out to get that right angle. So this is amazing. And then here, I drilled a hole. That little light peeking through right there. I'm poking the lines through into the chassis underneath the seat. These can go here. I got like a 120 that'll go into the top of the master. Bolt right there. It should be good.
Zap, 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 bam, bam, bam.
It's mounted up. The bracket works perfectly. The action, awesome right there. So I'm really stoked on the positioning of this. Steering wheel, less than a hand from the shifter. And then from that, it's not that much further to the handbrake. Still got a good amount of room in front of the dashboard. Maxed out is here, pretty much straight up and down. And I don't even think that I'm gonna have to go that far to actually get lockup. I'm not gonna bump my elbow on anything. Honestly, where it's at right now, kind of sick. This, for me, it's a big moment. Watching rally as a kid, watching these cars slide around, like a handbrake is quintessential rally car. Hydraulic handbrake in an all-wheel drive car. And then when I started working for Ken, the handbrake kind of became a symbol of what he did and the style of driving we did. It was just a really cool thing to us when we first got into rally. And now to have this in my favorite car, one of my favorite cars ever made, and it's the handbrake from the Hoonicorn. It's a little thing, but man, it makes this car that much more special to me. And like, it's hard for me to really emphasize like how much it means, but it's cool. I'm so stoked on how it came out. Nice and clean install. So really all that's left now is I just have to fill the system with fluid, and bleed the brakes, and fingers crossed there's no leaks. No leaks. No leaks around here. So far, all this works really good. There's no leaks at any of the tees that we did, at any of the fittings that we made. So that to me is a big win. But in general, the handbrake is in. I am pumped. Honestly, I was pretty intimidated by this whole job, and it didn't end up being that bad. It was a little bit of tedious work, a lot of research, but we got the job done. I gotta give it a proper bleed. We'll probably do a couple more of those, flush the system out, get those particles out. But in general, it holds pressure, it doesn't leak anywhere, and that is amazing. All this thing needs now for a proper grid test is the transmission. So just waiting on those parts. Team Rip is putting that transmission together. As soon as it gets back here, this car hits the dyno. And then hopefully you'll see this thing again soon.
I have what I think are two of the worst sounding vehicles ever. One's old and crappy, one's new and really nice. I'm happy you called this what I call this.
Macaroni, linguine, and fusilli.
It's a macaroni mid-pipe.